but I'm so frustrated. Hello to my loneliness. I guess that ignorance is bliss. Take me back to before the noon. Rewind, take it out of cue. Innocence can be a young man's game. Signed up for the hall of shame. I wish I knew how much I miss not knowing that we're all screwed when we play our roles and ignore the problems. I like to be away in my patience. Stay up, I feel so outdated. How can we look the other way? Sun is out, but the sky is gray. What would happen if I took a chance? It's always hard at first glance. I don't wanna, but I know I gotta do it. The truth is hard to swallow, I think I'll chew it. I wish I knew how much I miss not knowing that we're all screwed when we play our roles and ignore the problems. I wish I knew how much I miss not knowing that we're all screwed when we play our roles and ignore the problems. I wish I knew educated, but I'm so frustrated. How much I miss not knowing that we're all screwed. Educated, but I'm so frustrated when we play our roles and ignore the problems. I wish I knew educated, but I'm so frustrated. How much I miss not knowing that we're all screwed. Educated, but I'm so frustrated when we play our roles and ignore the problems. I wish I knew.
Hello, fellow and future entrepreneurs. This is Collin Hardiman, your host of Tailored Talk. I'm extremely glad to have you all here for another episode. But before we get into that, I just want to briefly recap, as I always do, what we've discussed so far. So in episode 1, we discovered what our passions were. So we discovered identifying your strengths, interests, and skills, brainstorming business ideas that align with your passion, conducting market research to validate your idea, developing a brand identity, strategically positioning yourself, creating a logo and brand messaging, establishing a unique value proposition, and communication. So then episode 2, we went over the basics of starting your business. So we talked about before setting up an entity, doing your market research. So once again, visiting nakes.com to begin your search of your own industry by name. We went over several kinds of cheat codes. So we talked about going to fpds.gov and usaspending.gov to research your industry by name. That was a big one. And we talked about finding the top 5 to 7 grossing revenue companies We discussed finding the top 5 to 7 revenue grossing companies that do what you do, so you could mimic kind of what they do and then apply it to your own business. They've already done the groundwork for you. And then we talked about start attending SBA Chamber of Commerce, like visiting your local SBA offices, your local Chamber of Commerce, to utilize those resources and finding a mentor. And then episode 3, we got into actually building the business, structuring your business. So that was setting up your entity, whether it was a LLC, S Corp, C Corp, LLP, registering your EIN, opening a business bank account, establishing a DUNS number, obtaining licenses and permits such as your MBE or DBE and other certifications, creating a professional business website. We talked about building out a business profile on Google My Business, and we talked about consulting with a local CPA, investing in bookkeeping software, and then government contracting. So make sure you go back and watch episodes 1, 2, and 3 if you have not. But I'm extremely excited to talk about today's episode because now we've done those things. Last episode, we actually went and got our entity. We set up the business bank account. We got our virtual office. We got those things. So episode 4 today, we are talking about, so now I've started my business, now what? Today's speaker she has cultivated the art of entrepreneurship since the age of 11. She is the founder of Goal Chasers Club, which is created to provide impactful resources with an emphasis on goal setting for success in business. In 2020, with her husband, she co-founded the 11 Sports Bar and Grill brand, which birthed TaterQue food truck and restaurant in Pflugerville, Texas. She is a proud wife, a mother, goal success coach, startup business mentor, author, and certified credit coach. I am very pleased and excited to have Bobbie Mack on today's episode. Bobbie, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thank you, Collin, for having me. I'm excited to be here. Excited to share. And I need a copy of that accolades. You put together so I need a copy of those.
Of course, absolutely.
Point.
But yes, I'm extremely glad to have you on today's episode as we talk about, okay, we started our business. So what do we do next? So, I did go over your accolades and things like that, but you've had some extreme success with TaterQue, the restaurant. I'm sure we'll get into that. But just tell our audience a little bit more about you, because I read off the accolades, but just tell us a little bit about you, Bobbie, the person, and what started your entrepreneurial journey. Sorry.
Yes. Well, initially, Bobbie the person. So, it's been a journey, and it's still, going. So I'm still learning and growing and adding more to my always learning. So, but what started the journey was, well, like you said, when I was young, I was selling candy. I figured out people will actually buy candy, and that was one thing that I could get my hands on as a kid. So I began selling that, and then so that piqued my interest. And then when I got a little older, I always knew I wanted to do more than just, work for someone, because I was just a creative spirit. Right. So I became, when I got my first home, I remember I didn't know what I was getting myself into. I just knew I wanted a house because when I was younger, my parents passed when I was very young, so we moved around a lot. Mm-hmm. And so I knew that when I was able, I wanted to buy my own home. Well, I was able to get my own home at 23, but it went south. Like, I didn't know what I was doing. I just signed on the dotted line. Well, that was during the mortgage crash, about 2006, 2008. Mm-hmm. And so I had gotten an adjustable rate mortgage. And so when it spiked, I was young. I was like in my 20s. So I ended up doing a short sale on my home. That actually sparked my interest in learning more about credit and loans. So I then got my loan officer's license. because I wanted to help people that look like me, that came from where I came from, and just didn't have the education and background to understand like what you're signing. And sometimes they're not going to go in depth with you, right?
Right.
They just want to make the sale. And so that really is what sparked it. So I was about 23, 24 when that transition took place. And been going ever since. Became a loan officer. The mortgage industry crashed, so I both my brokers went out of business. And then I was already in the healthcare industry, so I went to school and was like, well, let me get my business degree, and I got it in healthcare administration. And so I began to I was a compliance officer, so I was in the healthcare industry for about 23 years, and then I became a compliance officer. So I was helping in that role. I was running like 8 different clinics, the compliance aspect of it. So it allowed me to see revenue cycle. Then I became a revenue cycle director and a compliance officer. They gave me two titles.
Wow.
I had a team of people, I'm saying all this because the journey is not just like black and white. It's
Never
almost like
is.
one thing leads to another. I've always had a job. I always had a job in healthcare, even while pursuing other endeavors, because healthcare was always stable for me. Um, but in learning and being in that role and seeing as I expanded in that role in different positions, I was able to see different levels of the business as I grew in the healthcare industry. And so once I became the compliance director and revenue cycle director, it showed me a whole nother side of business. And so when my husband was looking to start his businesses, it I was able to use that background of what I saw and help him start his businesses, which he's had an apparel business, carpet cleaning, which he still has, and he kind of subs it out, uh, and then TaterQue. So all of that entrepreneurship, I call it, helped with the entrepreneurship uh, phase, and also just the trial and error of like the losses, and the losses were learning lessons, and it basically spawned me to have the ideas of like what could I've done different. So getting into credit repair, helping people to fix their credit so that they could get approved for homes at better rates, so that they didn't get into the situation I got in,
Right.
was what led me down that path. So yeah, just many different situations that kind of led to this point.
Yeah, and it's crazy because that's tends to be the story of a lot of entrepreneurs. It's like they were working regular jobs, and not knowing that that was giving us skills that was ultimately going to help us in our own business. So as an entrepreneur, that's why I don't knock 9 to 5s, because even in my entrepreneurial journey, people tend to ask, it's like, do I start a business or do I, do a job first? And it's like, well, why is it not an and? You can do both of them, because like I did my 9 to 5, and then I would go home and then pour into my business. So it's just like, and then structuring myself, I learned those things from on the job. So it's like just things I was doing at the job, I started applying into my own business. So that's why I always say, look at your employer as your investor, because if you're paying attention, they're showing you how to do the groundwork and everything, and all you're doing is just copying and pasting. It's like, oh, well, I can do this for myself. So
Yes, putting your own, yeah, making it your own. Yes, but I would say if they can pay you, they're doing something right.
so let's talk about TaterQue. Y'all are having extreme success. You're absolutely taking off. So let's talk about the building blocks of how y'all got there. So when we started out, let's go into creating a business plan. So it's just like when you started out, once everything already made sense, you put the entity in place, you already laid the, basically the groundwork. So it's like now the building blocks of starting TaterQue. What was that process of creating that business plan? If you'll go into that.
So really the first step was like researching um how we the business plan. Yeah, I mean that was the first step. The thought the idea is always, I'll take that back. The idea is always the first step. You have an idea of what you want, you have a vision of what you want and foresee. And then you develop that. So you test that out. We had a tasting with different family members and friends once we decided that we wanted to go full force with it. My husband came up with the idea at the lunch table. He just wanted a loaded spud, and we just, so it spawned from there, and it wasn't overnight. We were still working our prospective careers, and we, had to do some analysis, capital, all that.
Mm-hmm.
But the idea was first, and it took a couple years before, actually, from 2016 is when he went and got the DBA, because I was like, just get the DBA. And then from there, I didn't want to spend a lot on the LLC because we weren't for sure yet. So we
Right.
got the DBA. And then in 2020 is when we actually, so that was 4 years later when we actually stepped out on faith and invested into TaterQue. And we were gonna go the traditional route and get a brick and mortar, but then COVID hit,
Mm-hmm.
and we ended up going the route of a food truck because it was outdoors. So I say that to say the business plan started with an idea. The business plan initially started with a brick and mortar, but it pivoted to a food truck based on the climate of COVID. So
So you had an original idea, and you said it went into something else because it went from a restaurant to a food truck. So did y'all make that discovery once you did the business plan, and it was just like, oh, well, this actually would be a better fit, or what was the decision behind going the food truck route versus a restaurant?
it was yes, it wasn't initially because COVID wasn't around. It wasn't a thing then. In the beginning of, like, towards the end of 2019 is when we actually started worked on the business plan. It
Mm-hmm.
wasn't a thing until 2020. And we were still looking for brick and mortars because we didn't know if COVID was just a temporary thing or if it was just gonna pass through, we
Right.
didn't know how serious it was. And then, but towards the middle of 2020, the fall, we were like, okay, this doesn't seem to be letting up.
Yeah.
We were looking for brick and mortars, and all the restaurants were closing.
Mm-hmm.
So we were like, do we want to get into it with this uncertainty of not knowing when they're going to let people, open again? Or do we go the food truck route, which would allow us to be outside where social distancing is uh, possible? So that's where we ended up
Yeah.
going outdoors with it. That's how that ended up pivoting.
Yeah, and I think we need to put really an emphasis on making a business plan because that's even what we talked about last episode. Is a lot of
Yes,
people will skip putting time and effort into the business plan, but business plan has everything for you. It's like it lists a roadmap. It shows you, it keeps you on course basically. So
yes,
because it
it
has that
does.
executive summary, has a marketing strategy in there, has your budget, your financial analysis, the sections of your products and services. So, and what are you offering? So, just
Exactly.
so what was that process when you actually sat down to do the business plan? How long of a I guess what were the things that helped you put that business plan together, and how long was that process, and was it worth it doing
It
all that
was.
work to put it together?
So I'm gonna answer the last one first. Yes, it was worth it. The length of time it took, it's been a couple years, but it was at least, I know it took at least probably about a month and a half because we were not
Hmm.
working. We were working on it outside of work. So it took about a month and a half to like fully say this is our business plan. This is what we want to go with. Again, piece by piece. Yeah, it is very important, piece by
Hmm.
piece. Um, for me, the marketing strategy was the most important because marketing is everything in your business, but
Hmm.
also like the budgeting and the financial analysis is necessary because I mean you got to have money to start a business. So
Right.
um yeah, I mean so as far as, and then you need to know what products and services you're going to be offering and be able to price them
Exactly.
accordingly. See, well, how much am I going to make? What are these products and services going for? How much do they cost? How much labor is it going to take to create what we're trying
Hmm.
to create? And then what should we price them at? So looking at comparable other,
Yeah.
other competitors is very important to make sure you're pricing yourself, comparable to
Right.
what's around you. So yeah, it didn't take that long, but everybody's time is different. Again, we had to pivot from our initial one, so we did have to go back and make changes to it because we were initially going into brick and mortar, but we did still keep the brick and mortar concept. We just added the truck as the initial phase. So yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So the last thing I'll ask on, because I know you answered the third question first.
Did I?
So
Yeah, I did.
yeah, which is great because you said definitely yes. So why
Yes.
was that helpful when you finally did that business plan? What did that do for you? What did that do for y'all in your
Well,
business?
well, to your point, it helped to create that roadmap. So it helped us to basically go back and look at that, looking at our business plan to stay on track with what the initial plan was.
Hmm.
It helps you to just not only to reflect on your projections of where you felt your business would be the first year, second year, third year, and you're able to see, did we meet those projections, and in what way did we meet them. It may not have been the traditional way that the business plan was written out, but it still provides that guide. So even if you get a detour here or there, or get off, I say meet a dead end, then you're still able to get back on track because that business
Hmm.
plan is there to guide you. Yeah.
Exactly. All right. So that I really want to ask that question because I just want to put the emphasis of why creating a business plan is so important. This is
It's
literally your
so
roadmap.
important.
Because if you don't have a plan, if you don't see it, then it's just like you never know when you're veering off course or if you're going in the right direction. It's like you're kind of
Mhm.
flying in the wind, so you're doing yourself a disservice. So it's very important to do that, create
It's
that business
very
plan.
important. And to your point, even if you veer off course, because one thing about a business plan, I will say this in seeing being in business and having a business plan, and also helping others with their businesses, multi-million dollar businesses that had great business plans.
Hmm.
One thing that been told by mentors, and I've you know lived experience, is that the business plan definitely provides a good foundation and a guide, but be open to the things that may come in. You can't predict everything, but as long as it aligns with your goals of and the vision of starting the business, and it still aligns with that, then you got to be open to, like, it may not go exactly as planned, but you're still on track.
Right.
So yeah.
Wasn't it Andre Three Stacks that said you can paint a pretty picnic, but you can't predict the weather?
Oh my goodness, exactly. That's exactly yes, yes.
Exactly.
Yep, yep.
So let's go into the next subject here. When you created a mission statement, so mission statement is a concise statement that describes what you do, how you're doing, how are you going to do it, why you do it, and what value you bring to that market. So, and also what will set you apart from the rest. So, go into how y'all created your mission statement. And I think this is a unique conversation because we're getting a perspective from a restaurateur. So, those of you who want to go into the restaurant or food business, you're getting a good insight as far as like what are some things you can expect. So, but just go into crafting, how you went into crafting your mission statement.
So the mission statement, actually, it was funny because the initial business plan, it changed a little bit, and that's okay. You should revisit your business plan every 6 months,
Hmm.
if 5 to 6 months. Like, you should revisit it because things change, the climate changes, whatever. But your mission statement, initially it was similar, but we did change it once we got in. We kind of got going, um, and crafting it needs to be, because initially it was more. I wouldn't say corporate, but it was more just like what we felt the customers would want, as opposed to like how we felt internally of why we started the business. Like, what was our personal mission for starting the business? And
Right.
so you have to get to that. Like, people want to know, well, why did you start this business? You know, what was your goal? What's the outcome that you wanted? How do you want your customers to feel when they walk into your business? Um, so we tailored it to that. So I don't know. Do you
Yeah.
want to know what it is? Do you want to go through it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
It's like, yeah, give
So
us the deets.
I'll give you the deal. We're actually gonna be putting this on a shirt soon. So mission is TaterQue exists to serve food that tastes good, looks good, and makes our customers feel good. Because we know if
And
something
that's
looks
making me
good,
hungry right now.
you know, because we eat with our eyes, right? And then the values are we value solutions over problems,
Mm.
and along with teamwork, integrity, community involvement, and dedication to serve satisfying spuds. And our vision is to inspire every customer and team member by treating them like family and keeping God and gratitude at the forefront of all we do.
Awesome. That's I love that. And what that does is it lets your customers know what you're all about. So just like the business plan, your mission statement is extremely important. And just with my own experience, because I went through a whole rebrand myself when COVID
Mm-hmm.
hit, because I pivoted, had a great pivot as I talked about in the previous episodes. But like everybody else, when everything shut down, business for me came to a halt because we depend on in-person events for production, the lights, cameras, and things like that. We depend on conferences and things like that. So when there was no more public gatherings, we had to quickly pivot. And I looked at the data analytics and went to the virtual event space. So in that time of rebranding, it was extreme success that came with that pivot. So I utilized that time to rebrand, went from Amazing Entertainment Productions to what we are today. I LLC'd and rebranded to Amazing Media, got the brand colors, built the website. But the most important thing that was missing was our mission statement. It's just like we know what we were about, but I really had to hone that message down to really tell people who it is that we are, who we serve, and what we do. Because we really put a priority on quality. That's what separates us from everybody else. It's our quality of work. It's our involvement with the community. So it's just like listing that out, and that helps you partner with other companies or bigger companies. So it's just like your mission statement is your message as far as like, this is who I am, this is what we do. So people align with that. And I mean, you'd be surprised how many people align with you, your message versus your product or your service. So it's just
Yes,
like it's a caveat. So you can go into speaking about that.
that is so true. So you gotta tell. So we're on target audience, right?
Hmm.
Like aligning with the target audience. Okay, because we talk so much, Colin.
Yeah,
We
it was
get
like
these
we
conversations, but
segue right into the next point. So beautiful.
which is like you said, people align with your messaging, and you know, and speaking to what's true to you when it comes to your mission statement, and not what you think people want to see or hear or feel. It's like they want the real genuine you when it comes to why did you do something, why did you
Hmm.
create something, and we all have our reasons, so we just have to speak to that.
Right.
But yeah, define the target audience. Who will most likely buy your who what audience will most likely buy, considering your demographics.
Hmm.
It's a lot of things that go into that, like how old are they, who mostly likes, or you don't want to, you really aren't going to target as many vegans if you're a barbecue restaurant. So understanding like what are their behaviors, what
Right.
triggers your audience to want to purchase from you.
Right.
Where do they live, even, like, I'm not going to really target anyone from New York at the moment because we're not shipping barbecue. So I want to make sure that I reach my local community first. And
Exactly.
then what type of tools would we use to just determine the needs of that market, and in the temperature of that market, like what do they like? What don't they like? What are they buying more? What is
Mm-hmm.
their, what is, what is the median income in the area, to make sure you're not overpricing or underpricing, or offering, items that may be too expensive, um, and for people in that area to purchase from you. So it's all those things go into defining your target audience.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And that mission statement can help bring them in. It can help bring them to you. So you definitely need to define your target audience. What that is building your customer profile.
Yes.
It's just like what income they're in. I mean, what they spend on. So everything that Bobbie just mentioned. Because when you see all these stores and restaurants out there, or whatever it might be, retail store, they're not there just to be there. They were strategically placed in that area because they did their market research. They crafted their
Yes.
mission
Yes.
statement, or I'm
Yes.
sorry, they did their market research. They did their business plan. They create their mission statement, and they defined who their customers are. And they said, okay, this is where our target audience is, our ideal customer. This is the area where they're centralized. Let's plop a store right there. So it's like
Yep.
this is all part of the plan. That's why you have to be very precise, very concise. You have to be very strategic when you're crafting your business plan, when you're doing these things, when you're doing your market research, because this is going to tell you who your customer is. If you're wafting in the air, you don't do your business plan. You're just figuring out, well, I'll just go here. It's a lot of traffic in this area. You can be in a high traffic area and people just passing you by left and right because like that's not your target audience. They
That's
don't
not
need they don't need what you have. It's like so it's
Yes.
just like you have to be very defined. You have to be laser focused.
So true.
Anything else
And
you want to? Yeah.
large companies do that all the time. I say, even though, I had people say, well, they've been around for 40 some years. And I'm like, yeah, they have. So obviously, like, they know they have a good formula. So even though they've been around for that long, you can look at some of the ways they move in business, and mirror that in a sense to your own business. So if you don't see a Chick-fil-A on every corner or in every neighborhood, there's a reason. There's a reason they put Chick-fil-A's a certain distance from other Chick-fil-A's, or
Mm-hmm.
McDonald's or whoever I'm using just as an example, companies that have been around for a long time. Um, they know their target audience. They know where they strategically have a plan when they place those in certain places. And it's certain places that they will not put put their restaurants.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so yeah, to your point, it is very important to to look at where you are. How far is the next barbecue restaurant from where I am? What does the access look like, if it's a building or not?
Right.
What conveniences do people around you like, whether it's delivery or how many, just all those things, those factors, um, that you're gonna need to be successful. You have to look at.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And this is when I talk on this subject. This is my favorite thing to do. I go to Google Maps and
Yes.
I'll put in Whole Foods
Yes.
here in Houston.
Okay.
Look at okay. Do y'all see those Whole Foods? They're
Oh
all
my
on the
goodness.
west side of Houston. If I go
Yes.
to East Houston, you see there are no Whole Foods whatsoever on the east side of the city. Those of you know Houston, Houston's very industrial once you get east of downtown or east of 610. It's like nothing but chemical plants and refineries and things like that. It goes industrial really quick. So if Whole Foods didn't have a business plan or strategic, it's like, you know what, Houston's a big city. Let's just plop them to serve East Houston, Northeast Houston, South Houston. They looked at the demographics. So Whole Foods is a certain kind of customer. Everybody knows that Whole Foods is expensive. So they're putting it in East Houston, North Houston, South Houston, in industrial areas where it's just like these are workers who are going to refineries and things like that. Like they could care less about Whole
Mm-mm.
Foods. These are workers
They
that
need
go
grab
get
and go.
chips. Yeah, they get chips and all that kind of stuff. Like, what the hell am I going to do with a
Yeah,
Whole
they
Food?
need grab and go options. They're busy. They're on the move. They probably don't have a lot of
Exactly.
access to even be able to cook, because they're on those sometimes ships or barges and things like that. And yeah,
So even with that, looking at that Google Maps, whatever city I go to, I can get an idea of where the kind of like middle class to affluent neighborhoods are in each city. If I've never been to a city before, I can just type in Whole Foods, and I can just like, oh, this is kind of like the area,
That area,
the area that I want to kind of
Man,
be in. Yeah, that's my little tip. That's my little cheat code. Yeah, that's my little cheat code. So it's
Now,
like
I know
whenever
where I
I'm at,
go get a kale salad from at that salad bar. I love
because I personally I love Whole Foods. I'm personally a customer, so I always go there to get groceries and things like that. But that gives me an idea of where to stay too, of like whenever I'm out of town or something like that. So, but yeah, that's one of the strategies I use. But that's how very concise you have to be, very strategic you have to be when defining your target audience and creating your mission statement. So it's very important. Did you want to add anything else before we go on to the next point?
That's pretty much it
Okay.
with the target audience. Yeah, I think that's pretty much.
Oh, yes. So I did actually have another question for you. So I know you said, I think that was very important what you said. You said you did some tests. So you did some like taste testing. You like let people sample your in this case your product, which is the food. So I think that was very ingenious because people want the big senses of touch, taste, and feel. People touch, taste, smell. I think I might have gotten them wrong, but smell, touch, taste. Y'all know what I mean. But so it's just like you gave them that option of, you let the customer actually taste it out for you and like give you a critique as far as like, this is really good, and I would actually, this is a little too spicy, or actually I would do this, or no, this is really good, this is bomb. So it's like that is the best way to test a product or service, is actually giving it to people and like, hey, tell me what you think about this service. Would you utilize this? So just talk about just the reaction you got from everybody, and then when you knew that, okay, this is good, or we need to make a few little tweaks, and then we got it.
Okay. Yeah. Really and truly, like, well, when we first rolled it out, to be honest, we had kind of tested it first before we let other people. Like, okay, is it good to us? Because I don't want to just be embarrassed in the moment. Like, but when we did tweak it some, but really and truly, it was a blessing, to be honest with you. Like, when we did roll it out, because everyone loved it. Everyone loved the ones. And I was like, do y'all love it because it's free, or do you really love it? Love it? Like, because it was saying, somebody said, everybody loves free food,
Oh
like,
yeah, food
you
tastes a
gotta
little bit
pay
better
for
when it's
it,
free.
you know. So they were honest with us though, and we knew that the people we had would be honest with us. So we didn't change a lot. We did change some of the plating, and we did change some of the product that we use, as far as just for ease of use and ease to serve customers. So initially, what you might put together in your own kitchen is going to be a little different than having to serve, hundreds of people. So we did change a little bit from that initial tasting, but for the most part, it stayed the same. We just changed the product. So, for instance, instead of maybe butter, the steel butter, we needed a quicker way to get it on there. So that kind of stuff. But we didn't have to take much from the offerings that we initially came out with. We just tweaked it a little bit. So we might have added Parmesan. We might have added something to make it better, or make it maybe like the chicken. We add some things to make it a little more crispier, so that in transport, if somebody has it in a closed box in a bag, it stays crispy longer. So things like that we tweaked. But as far as the flavor and the process, I mean, in the build out, we didn't change that much.
Right, and even in my company, we're service based. So even with that great pivot idea, I knew it was going to be a great pivot idea because everybody was at home, and people were panicking and in a frenzy. So it's just like I knew we had a great thing, but still, before we did a hard release and before I start putting ads and marketing behind it, we did a soft release where it's just like we offered it free to a couple of people, and then we maybe charge like half price to another group. And we ran some events and we got some feedback from it. It was just like, it's actually really good. Change is da da da, or there was this technical hiccup. So we took that feedback and then we improved our processes. And then we did our hard release, and by that time we did the hard release, it was foolproof. So everyone has the luxury of friends, hopefully family, that you can test this out on if you don't have a particular market or clientele that you can go test this out on. Try it out with your friends, try it out with your family members, and just take it all in stride. Like, I know it could be like we might. Yeah, it's like we might think that it's just like, no, this is the bomb. I know this is, and then you give it to people to test out, and they're like, I don't know. It's like, what? Are you crazy? It was like, all right. Like you're getting some real world feedback right now, and it's like might need to listen, because if they're saying this, if 3 or 4 or 5 more people saying the same thing, then you might need to.
You might need to take heed. You might need to take heed, and you kind of know deep down who's serious and who's not.
Exactly.
You especially if it's friends and family, you kind of know the feedback to be like, okay, I can see where that could be improved on.
Yep.
So yeah, definitely have some tough skin when it comes to being able to take that feedback.
Because I was just about to say, you even got to be strategic when you're asking those people to try something out. Be strategic. Don't just go ask any old body. Like, be strategic in that also. Yeah. Be very strategitic.
Don't go ask negative Nancy, because they gonna find something wrong. If they always find something wrong, they might be.
I don't know about this. I wouldn't do all that.
But still eating it.
Yeah, and these ones, well, you sure are tearing it up.
Exactly.
So now let's go into outlining your products and services. I knew this was going to go off the rails.
But yeah,
I love talking to Bobbie. But outlining your products and services. So you want to provide all relevant details about your product and services, benefits, and add an emotional element for your audience to connect. Now, there's a key word in that sentence, but I'll let you speak on that as far as like outlining your products and services.
Just outlining your products and services. So details about them. Of course, you're not going to want to get too specific when it comes to measurements and things like that. So one of the key ways to kind of get some insight when you're developing your products and services, like the descriptions of them, the details, whether it's for a menu or online or whatever, is I love to look at other companies and what they're doing. There's nothing wrong with that. They already got the blueprint. Right. If something triggered you to buy from them, go look at how did they trigger you to buy from them. So and then tweak that for your own. So if they're descriptive, their descriptions of their products, they use a lot of adjectives. They use a lot of like emotional, mouth watering types of, calls, and then a call to action or whatever it may be. That's what you want to do when it comes to outlining your product. Because a lot of times we internalize, like, only from our thought process, what we want to put about our product. But it's market studies on this. So it's there's psychology behind buying. There's psychology behind, you may have the greatest product, the best cookies out there, whatever it is.
There's psychology behind colors also.
Yes, for sure. And for example, to your point with the colors, like I know a person that was serving food and their card was black and gold. Well, that doesn't trigger me to buy. Or you're cleaning homes, but your card is black and gold. And I love those colors. They're royalty, but in certain situations, it doesn't trigger like clean and it want me making me want to eat anything. And so the descriptive words, the colors that you use, it ignites certain senses in people that make them trigger them to want to find out more. Like, oh, this sounds good. They said it was delectable, and it was a loaded, buttered, golden premium spud. Now this a bed of premium spuds. I mean, come on, like I want to try that. So it's and all the details. It's the truth. It's just making sure you point them out. If I give you a description and say, we got a loaded baked potato with barbecue on it or with brisket on it, then hey, that may trigger you. But if I say we have a loaded, as I'm trying to think, 'cause I'm getting hungry. Because I'm getting hungry.
I know you're making me hungry. You mentioned that brisket, it was over with. I'm just like, I'm about to get on my phone right now, putting the order.
And that's great, right? See, that triggered you. But if I go over here and say, we have an Alamo that is a premium butter golden spud or golden butter spud seasoned to perfection with tender smoked brisket loaded with barbecue sauce, cheese, chives, and your choice of hot or mild sauce, you're gonna be like, well, hold on, that hits a little different. So it's just making sure that when you're outlining your products and services, you putting those details in there, but making sure that you don't have to get super technical. You just need to give them a summary of what that product looks like, and also use descriptive words to entice them to want to buy that product. So entice the senses.
Exactly. Don't overdo it, like she said, because if it's easy to explain, it should be very concise.
Yes, I don't need to put 4 ounces of beans and 2 ounces of butter, alternative vegan-free butter, and this and that, or vegan butter and this and that. Like certain key things are necessary, or vegan-friendly spud, but you don't have to overly detail it to where you lose people in the translation. Just uh, enough details to where they know what they're about to eat. So if they're allergic to something, or they know what they're gonna buy, and or what services that they're gonna receive, without you like getting too technical, because people get lost in the weeds.
Yeah. I'm not, and I'll be honest with you, when I first heard about your business, when I heard about TaterQue, the first thing it made me think about was tater tots. And I love tater tots, so I was like, my mouth just watered just with TaterQue. I was like, okay, so it's obviously tater tots, maybe with barbecue, TaterQue. So I was just like, oh, tater tots and barbecue. So without even seeing the brand, no colors, no logo, it's just like the name had already sold me. It already sparked the senses of water in my mouth, and it's just like, okay, I need to check out TaterQue. But when she talked about outlining your products and services, you want to provide all relevant details about your product and services, benefits, and add an emotional element for your audience to connect. So that key word in that sentence was emotional, because when people buy, it's usually an emotional impulse. People buy off of emotion. One thing that makes us so successful is we tap in people's emotions through creative storytelling. So we're really good as far as like immersing ourselves in our client's story, immersing ourselves in their lives, in their story. And it's like we become a part of it. So it's just like we can envision and see what it looks like. And 9 times out of 10, we'll exceed the client's expectation, or we'll put something in there that they didn't even consider. And it's just like the emotional response we get from that, sometimes they'll cry, but they'll be like, "Oh my God, this is so beautiful!" Like, "Oh my God, y'all literally, it's like y'all are in my head, and y'all just thought about exactly what I was like envisioning." So we're good at taking vision, taking it from ideation to realization. So that's one thing that sets us apart. And then of course it's the quality also. So it's the professionalism and working that. So those are the things that help us stand out and get people talking and referrals and things like that. So it's like, it's not a boast, but we don't really market heavily because, most of our work is referral based, because we touch that sense of that emotional response. Like we tapped into their emotions, and it's just like, oh my God, this is exactly what I wanted and more. You got the messaging down. And it's like to actually see it. So then they do the talking.
Awesome. That's
so
so
awesome. They do the talking for us. So, but yeah. So, awesome. So when people buy from you,
people thought it was people call it tater tot. Don't go to tater tot.
No, not tater tot.
But we've used tater tots in our tacos before, but we don't use them on our spuds. But I was like, that's interesting that it triggers that interest in the tater tots.
Right. So that's you bring up a good point when you mention that, because What do you do when you hear that? Do you like, oh, it's TaterQue, or do you find yourself correcting them, or do you just let it fly?
I
Because
just let it
there's a
fly.
reason. There's a reason I'm answering this. I'm asking you this question. I just want to see.
I actually just let it fly because it's it's still a it triggers a sense in them that's memorable to the brand.
Exactly.
And so I don't want to correct that. Like
Right.
that's just I call it, well, and my husband says this too, like you want to leave us you leaving a stain on their brain. Like he used to say, I'm gonna leave a stain on your brain. Like just something that
Mm-hmm.
triggers a reaction. Cause he used to tell me that all the time, be joking around. He like, all right, I'm gonna leave a stain on you. Like I'm going to make you remember me. Especially when we were starting a date. He used to say that because I'd be like, I'm not trying to get off track, but I'd be like, oh, I didn't want to talk to him before. He'd be like, okay, you gonna remember me. Like, I'm gonna leave a stain on your brain. Like, I'm gonna do something that's memorable to remember me. So it's the same thing with that recognition. If you think tater tots, when you see tater Q, I don't want to take that from you, you know?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And that's why I asked you that question, because I did the same. I actually just started doing what you're doing now because I used to correct people. Because the name of
Mhm.
my company is Amazing Media, so it's not amazing like AMAZ, ING. It's amazing, so it's AMAZ. It has the number one and N. So the one represents uniqueness, because we
Mm,
consider ourselves unique. So
yeah.
when we first started out, a lot of people were like, "Oh, amazing one," and I'm not I look at the company name or logo. I'm like, "Well, how do they get an amazing one from that?" It's like
Yeah, yeah,
the one is in the
yeah,
middle is like, what?
yeah.
And I would correct people like, actually, no, it's amazing. But then after a while, once I matured and things like that, like 5 years into business, I just like start taking my hands off. It's just like, no, why are you correcting them if that's what they resonate with? If that's how they identify you, leave that impression on them. Don't correct them. Like now you're taking out of their head. It's like, oh, amazing. Okay, amazing. The next time they think about it, it's like,
Yes,
oh, was it? Now you confuse them.
yes,
So it's just
yes.
like, but they say, oh, amazing one. Then it's just like, then they think about you. Oh yeah, there's amazing one that does. So it's like I
Mhm,
don't correct them
mhm.
anymore. It's just like exactly what you said. It's like let that just marinate on their brain, and
Yes,
it's just like,
yeah,
hey, if you go by amazing one, fine. Hey, if you got it by as amazing, hey, fine. As long as you
yes,
remember the name, as long as you
mhm,
remember the company and what we do.
yes,
So
yes.
great point.
Yeah,
Great
yeah.
point. Um, so now we're getting into developing a marketing strategy. So defining mission and vision statement, detail executive summary, know your target market, which we've already discussed these things. Define marketing goals, use SMART goals, specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, time relate. Yeah, so you can go into those a
The
little bit
four
more as far as
P's.
like, yeah, exactly, the 4 Ps.
Yeah. So with the marketing strategy, you know, of course, it's coupled with your mission and value statement or your mission and vision statement, but um, and also your business plan. It's a part of your business plan. It's living and breathing, and so the marketing strategy is important because you're when it comes to SMART goals, specific, measurable, attainable, all those are inclusive because it's going to determine how long it takes for you to uh, roll out. Like, where are you going to start with marketing and
Right.
what's your goal to grow into marketing? Because Rome wasn't built overnight. And I got to tell myself that almost every day because I want to get up and conquer the world and finish my whole task list, do all the things. But even with marketing, like as you grow into your business, you're going to, and as time changes and times have changed, you
Mm-hmm.
find new ways to market. So yes, it's important to have the strategy in place of like, okay, I'm going to market to this area and I'm going to set these clear goals of what I want the outcome to be from this said marketing strategy.
Right.
But understanding also, I always and I go to this because I want entrepreneurs to know that you must be flexible but still set smart, specific, measurable goals, but also make room for flexibility because you'll have things that come in other uh like even social media platforms like your TikToks and your different ways to market. So you want to just add those into your toolbox of whatever your plan was, but always having a plan for that marketing. So, for example, I use one example. We did Mail Shark when we first moved and got into the building to let people know we were there. Well, when had a meeting with the the owner of Mail Shark to make sure that if we send out said amount of flyers, what is our average return on this investment? So now we're making sure that okay, financially we can afford to market in this way,
Mm-hmm.
uh, to pay them this amount of dollars, and this is what our expectation is in return, and just dollars and new customers and dollars. How
Mm-hmm.
much does it take to attain a new customer versus an already established customer? What type of referral incentives do you want? Do you want to put in place for when the new customer comes in to refer other customers? So it's different based on each industry, of course, but
Right.
you still want to make sure that wherever your marketing goals are, your strategy, it aligns with not only your budget but your business plan and also like the outcome that you want to see from it. So 10% of new customers, if I spend $1,000 is X amount of dollars. Like, a lot of times we just flying by our seat and saying, I'm just gonna keep throwing it out there.
Mm-hmm.
But what do you want to come from that offer? Like
Yeah.
you just want customers? What you know, it has to be more strategic than that.
And you said this is called Mail. This is Mail Shark.
Yes, Mail
What
Shark.
what is that? Just for our viewers.
So Mail Shark is if you ever get those flyers in your mailbox that are for restaurants or for say even dental offices use it. It's called direct to mail marketing. It's actually like electronic mail delivery because they'll
Mm-hmm.
it's the metered mail. So whenever you get those flyers, or some people call it junk mail, uh it's good. You want to make sure that you're marketing to people that are more likely buy your product, that
Right.
are in your locality. Like I'm not gonna like Mail Shark would not market all the way to Lakeway. They're gonna market within 10 miles of our establishment. So it's direct to mail marketing though. So they'll direct, that's what it's called. But basically they're gonna put a flyers in your mailbox in everyone's mailboxes and that flyer will be designed however you choose. You work with their designers, and they know because they're more skilled at it what triggers a response because they want you to be a returning client. So that's
Right.
just one strategy that we use.
Yeah. So I was just about to ask, what is another strategy that y'all use? Do y'all do y'all run any ads or anything like that?
Yes, so we use a lot of social media, Facebook ads initially. We don't do them as much anymore. But we do periodically do Facebook and social media ads. But we've learned to do them with uh, we niched down the audience a little bit more, so it's not as broad, or we don't just let Facebook choose the audience.
Mm-hmm.
We choose an audience that's more likely to purchase our product, like barbecue lovers or sports lovers, because we have football on and different things. So we've learned to niche down, teachers, families, things like that. People looking for places to eat.
Yeah. Okay. Um, and then I think it's very invaluable also to have a digital marketer or or just a marketer in general, if you have the resources for one. Because I know even with my pivot, I had organic reach going on because once again we was offering a service at the time where everybody needed that. So it's like there's not much I had to do. But on top of that, I did get a digital marketer. Shout out Majorca. She's extremely great at what she does. But she was able to put some ads out there for us. We create the content, but she created everything from the landing page to creating the funnel and she was able to really just pinpoint our specific audience. She was able to make tweaks in real time. And at one point in time, I had to tell her to like stop the ads because there was so much coming in. Like my calendar was booked for out for like 2 months. I was like, please stop the ads, please stop the ads. But that's how effective it was. And even at that time, during the pivot, I created a new website, and she installed a pixel on it. And within the first month of my brand new website, I had 80,000 visitors on that new website.
Wow,
I couldn't
awesome.
believe it. Like she showed me that, she took a screenshot and showed me analytics, because I was like, that can't be right. And she showed me a screenshot. I was like, 80,000 people. So it's like, but I didn't even have, since I just pivoted, it's like I didn't even have an initiative that could have shuffled everybody over to like a mailing list or something like that, you know, just to, or have a product where it's just like, you know, I incorporate them into another product or service that I offer. So, you know, you learn these things, but that could have been in my business plan. That could have been my marketing strategy, as we're talking about right now.
Yes. Building
So,
that mailing list for sure. Like for example, with us having a service, to your point, with us having a product that we sell, we get all of the all new customers. We offer them like points, you know, so they sign up for points to earn points on every purchase, which in turn turns into cash that they can get discounts off their next purchases. So we're able to collect their emails and their phone numbers. We're able to send them happy birthday messages.
those
And now we're
incentives.
getting ready to pivot over into a different system, CRM, customer relation management, which is a CRM, to be able to plug in text for our weeklies, lineup specials and things like that we have going on. So we can text that stuff every week. Here's our weekly lineup, because not everybody is on social media. So to your point, you want to take advantage of every point of contact with that customer.
Every.
Yes. And again, like you said, we live and learn. So um doing that is been very effective. Also, you know, word of mouth. Merch is another good way to market. When people say they want your
Thank
shirts,
you.
they want your hats, or they want your mug, then you know we're working now on rolling out a line of different merch.
Oh,
So
I
it's
know.
always working and
Because
building and growing.
Oh, I know, because I don't think I didn't catch that at the beginning of this episode. You was just like, oh, I'm going to put that on the shirt, because I started to stop you right there. I was like, oh, so you're already working on merchandise.
Yes,
But
yes,
yeah, and you'd be
yeah.
surprised how many people are anxious to buy your merch. Like just with your company logo, like people like want it, like, oh, can I get two? Can I get three? That is free advertising, ladies and gentlemen.
And
Free
also, like, if
advertising.
you have a product, to your point, like depending on what you serve, like create you know, I think it's important for me to it's important for me when I'm dealing with other companies. Like I like when they create that uh like a like a like I'm part of a group. I'm part of something special. Like so for example, like we call our customers, they're part of the Spud Squad. They're
Spud
Spudsters,
Squad.
happy Spudsters. Like,
Spud.
look, you're a
That
Spudster,
Spud
you
gets
are
me.
officially a part of the Spud Squad. Like they do reviews and all that. I'm like, you know, you're officially on the Spud Squad. So creating a shirt that says that, like, you know, I love my Spuds or something, but Spud, proud member of the Spud Squad or proud Spudster. Um, people have remembered that. Like people remember that. And they're like, I want to be on the Spud Squad. I want to be a Spudster. So it's like it's a family thing. It's like something that they resonate with. So a lot of the rappers, if you notice, they're like all my Barbies and the Beehive, right, for Beyonce. So it's a real thing, you know.
Right. So what I was saying on, so it's just like you create incentives, because even with the mailing list, you said you give them like a discount or a coupon or something like that. And then the Spud Squad, you can still hear me, correct? Yeah, so even with the Spud Squad, you're giving them an incentive. You're making them feel like they're a part of something. So it's like you're creating that rapport with the clients. It's not you're just providing a product or service, but you're going above that and you're making them feel included, like they're part of a family, because they are essentially a part of your family. Like all the clients I do work with essentially become friends, and these, gotten some of my mentors that way. These were clients that turned into mentors, and these were people that turned into friends. It's like I'm invited to barbecues, no pun intended. I'm invited to gatherings and things like that. It's just because just like they love the work, and it's like there's an alignment there also. So that goes back to the mission statement, the branding we talked about in episode 1. It's like finding your branding message. So it's just like people align with you, and people come to you, not necessarily because of, it's not just because of what you can do for them, but also because there's an alignment. They see something in you that aligns with what they are about as well.
Yes, yes. And I love to feel like a part of something, especially when I love it. And then you make me feel like you value, me as a customer. Like, your customers need to be valued because they help your business to thrive. So
Hmm.
it's not even in a superficial way. It's just you are they are the fabric of your company. They are your company. I hear people say all the time, like, well, I work for myself. You always gonna work for somebody because you work for your customers. So, and your customers are they're your fabric of your business. They are your business. So
Exactly.
not ever, like, whatever you need to do to make sure they know that they're valued and appreciated. Always finding ways to make sure that your customers know they're valued and appreciated is very key and crucial. They're not just another number. I hate being treated like another number, but some places just do, right? I mean, some places just don't. They don't develop that culture as a part of their business or brand, and I feel like it's important to do that.
Absolutely. Good stuff. So now we're getting into setting financial projections. So, you need to know your sales projections, you need expense projections, you need your balance sheet. So list all your assets, liabilities, income statement, revenues, expenses, and profitability. So go ahead and talk about that as far as like setting your financial projections.
Yeah, you pretty much you pretty much summed it up. Like you really need to know. Again, we talked about your margins of your products or your services. Like, what is it going to cost you to provide those products or services initially? Time, and not just your time, but the time and effort of others. If you got to pay other people, the expense of the products, any other additional labor that may be needed
Right.
to develop it, any other companies that are going to be involved with developing it. So just develop it, knowing those cost of goods sold or cost of services provided is very important, and then also what your sales projections are so that you can make sure that those costs of goods or costs of services provided are lower than your actual sales, so because you want to be profitable.
Right.
So if that makes sense, I could probably said it a little bit backwards, but
No, it
basically
makes
you
total
want
sense.
cost of goods sold to be less than your cost of services and your sales, your overall sales at a certain percentage. A healthy percentage is about 20%. And you get that by knowing what your margins are, knowing your costs. What is it going to cost you? What do you need to survive? you
Hmm.
know, and is it tangible with, if you're pricing your service at $50 an hour, or do you need to price it at $100 an hour to make that to to create a profitable scenario? And in the beginning, of course, you have to put so much capital into your business. You're not get a return on your investment right away, but you still need to know what to work towards in order to get. So, what are my sales projections of just my core product? And then maybe even looking at, of course, what your initial investment is going to be, but um, what other things could you do in the future to grow those sales or to
Right.
diversify those sales? Uh, Outside of you just physically having to always provide a service, what are some ways that you can bring in additional
Right.
income um, outside of that don't require you to be there, don't require continuous labor. So,
Right.
having those, having all of that, your income statement, your balance sheet, of course, is important because you're listing out everything that you've purchased, which is your assets and your liabilities, how much is coming in and out of your business. Who do you have to, what is your overhead? Everything from
Mm-hmm.
your bills, which are things that I don't think a lot of entrepreneurs don't take into consideration. Because I'll tell you, like, I'm the more like budgeting one, and then my husband's the more shiny object. I want it. I don't know. I just want it, and I know I'm going to use it, but like, I'm the one. Then I come in and say, okay, how are we gonna plan to use it? What are we gonna provide? If we
Mm.
buy this machinery, like, is it gonna save us on labor? Like, where are we gonna get the return from if we buy this, for instance, crawfish machine? How often are we gonna have crawfish
Yeah.
boils? How often are we gonna, like, what are we gonna price them at? How are we gonna market them?
Has to make sense. And
It gotta make
dollars.
sense,
Dollars and
because
cents.
a lot of uh a lot of entrepreneurs, they call it shiny object syndrome. You want the best of the equipment, the best of the this, and you got to make
Mm-hmm.
sure that it coincides with your expense projections and looking at your business plan. Is it going to help you provide a service or a product that you need right now for your business plan? Because you always have room to expand and to grow down the line. You don't have to do everything at one time.
Right. So I don't want our viewers to be intimidated or for this to go over their heads. So when you talk about these expenses, your for your equipment costs, overhead, things like that, how are because everyone just set up their entity now, they're running out the gate, with their new business. So they might be asking themselves, how do I price my products? How do I price my services? Where are they getting these numbers, these figures from to say, oh, I'm bringing in X, I need to charge X for this, and the equipment costs this much. Here's my overhead. Here's what I can't afford to take on, and such. How did you get those figures?
Well, we got our figures based on all of those things pretty much that you just mentioned, a combination of those things, and it changes based on market pricing.
That
So
market risk.
yes, stuff
That,
goes up.
that market research also will help you determine that.
Yes, yes, and and so you gotta, yeah, constantly be researching. Our prices have gone up. Our prices, some things have gone down based on market market price, the price of what it
Right.
costs us, right?
Yep.
But so that's when we constantly change. So for instance, we initially got it based off market price for the product, or what it takes to go into creating that product that we're selling.
Mm-hmm.
It would be the same way I would look at it. What goes into providing this service that I'm what goes into providing this service?
Exactly.
uh I gotta buy this camera, I have to buy this lens. It's gonna depreciate over, let's
How you
say,
gonna
12
how you
months.
gonna tell my story?
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm just playing.
But
It's like
whether it's a
you
product
going into
or
my
a service,
field.
yes.
I got this. I got this.
Whether
Like
it's a product or
how did you price your
service.
how did y'all price your products? I'm a
You
trust me.
gotta. I'm gonna
I'm gonna
talk
bring
about
it
my
full circle
cameras.
on my side. Trust
Just
me.
some cameras. But yeah, it's a similar, like, you're just looking at the cost. And
Yeah.
the good thing about providing a service sometimes is you're not having to constantly get inventory or certain types of inventory. In the
Hmm.
world of retail, or in the world of food, any type of
Mm.
retail, you're constantly having to re-up, constantly having to re-up.
Yeah.
And so your prices may fluctuate depending on how much it's costing you to buy something.
Right.
So initially, when we price it out, you want a profit margin of at least 30 to 40%. You shooting for 50, and that's really good. Now, if you're selling liquor, your profit margins are gonna be higher. But when it's food already has lower profit margins, or retail tends to have lower profit margins depending on the minimum that you can buy. So a
Hmm.
place like Walmart, of course, is going to have way less cost to buy that shirt than a startup business that can only buy 50 shirts. So
Hmm.
your cost may be higher than what Walmart can sell it for. So that's the same thing with the business like mine. If you know, you don't have your own smokehouse, so you got to look at what the market is charging to deliver that product, how much it costs you, what the labor entails, your average labor cost per hour, what does your output look like per day or per week, and then your cost of goods sold. How much did it cost you that week for your cost? How much did your labor cost? And what is your overhead weekly? I break my overhead down weekly because even though it's monthly, I know like I'm not gonna most bills are due monthly. They're not due weekly, except for your food costs. Some vendors you can have a 30-day net. That means they'll give you 30 days to pay them. So I'm looking at costs weekly because I know I'm not gonna make all my rent probably in 1 month, in 1 week. So I need to break it out over the weeks. What do I need to sell per
True.
week
Smart.
to get these bills to pay this overhead cost? So if my overhead is 50K and then, including my labor, how much do I need to make per week to cover that, in addition to how much is this gonna cost me to make that much? Because I need to make sure it costs me at least a third, and it can't cost me
Yep.
75%. I ain't gonna make it. I need to be at 30%, 25 to 30% of that though, in order to cover these expenses,
Yeah.
and then 20% labor. So looking at industry analysis for the business that you're in, looking at business plan examples for the business that you're in will help to give you some of that blueprint on how to structure your prices. And it helps you to know, where do I need to focus the most marketing efforts at
Right.
to make sure I can meet these, meet my expenses. We
Right.
could cover our expenses and still clear a profit.
By the way, am I coming through clear on the audio?
You come, yeah, you are.
Okay. But yeah, y'all let us know if y'all have any questions in the chat. Hopefully this is making sense because she just gave y'all a great breakdown of this is basically how you determine what your prices are going to be. So if you're asking the question of how do I know how much to charge and da da da, it's like she just gave y'all the blueprint of how all this stuff helps you price that, but also the market research, because you're not just defining who your target audience is, you're looking at your competitors also, because you'll be fooling yourself saying, oh, well, I don't have any competitors. You have competitors. Trust me.
Yes, yes.
Trust me. They might not do everything you do, but you got people that do some of the things, or most of the things that you do, and you got to be able to differentiate yourself from others. And if they're more established and got more foot in the game than you, then you got to try to justify to that customer, why should I go here versus who I've been going with for the past 5-10 years. So you got to look at competitors, how much they're charging and things like that. So it's just like everything Bobbie just gave you, and then also that market research. Look at your competitors, see how much they're charging, and then that'll give you kind of a good idea of where your price point should be. And I like that go ahead.
To your extent, to your point, they don't care if, like, until they become a customer of yours and they actually like and like they're all in with your brand. They like your sausage, for instance, better than they may like your competitor's sausage. Until they get that foot in the door to taste it, you need to be comparable to them because they've
Right.
never had your food. So if I know, for instance, I'm gonna just use Southside and Elgin, is I've been going to them for years and they charging me $8 for a sausage wrap, and you charging me $12. What's gonna make yours better? And I haven't even set my foot in the door. So make sure that it's
Wow.
comparable.
Yep, exactly.
Even and it might cost them less for that sausage, but you still need to make sure you're at similar price points to get them to even want to try your food.
So I'm glad we're having this discussion because there's one more thing I want to talk to you about before we go on to the next point. So how do you deal with the clients like, ooh, that's just a little too much, or ooh, this is just a little too pricey? Well, actually, before I go into that, because I was gonna talk about my my camera equipment and things like that. Like I buy top of the line everything. So from the lights to camera, because that goes into the quality. It's just like we work with state of the art equipment and things like that. So, I look at the cost of what it cost me to buy that equipment. That's wear and tear over time. So yeah, Bobbie made a great point as far as like, no, I don't have to, I can buy things in bulk and not have to worry about, you know, buying more stuff until 5-6 years later. The only time we are buying more products or equipment is when we're put onto a unique project or a big project that requires more equipment that we don't currently have. So it's like we'll either rent it out or we just might buy it just to add to our repertoire. So I tend to buy more than I rent because I just like to have that. It's just like, oh, I've taken on this unique big project, and once I fulfill that project or that contract, then it's just like, oh, now I can keep targeting this specific contract because now I have this equipment to do something of this scale. So I just keep adding more and more to our production equipment. But all that's wear and tear. So when we got to do cameras, video editing on the computer, everything like the screens, external displays, all that's wear and tear. So it's just like, even though it's already paid for, it's just like, this is going to break down over time because anything man-made is going to break down. So it's like, these are repair costs and things like that. So not only just the time and labor, but, you know, for me, I got to add in maintenance costs. Because these are things that's going to break down the equipment over time for continual use. So, but yes. So going back to my question, how do you deal with the clients and customers that are, oh, this is a little too pricey, and how do you deal with that? How do you deal with those kind of clients or customers?
I just, you know, everybody's not going to be your ideal customer. And initially I tell them that, because there's usually only a handful that give you that kind of feedback, but usually they're checking it out before they come in or looking at the menu or something. But I do, you know, just say, you know, everyone's not our ideal client. Our products are priced, you know, with comparable companies around here or restaurants that are in this area. So, you know, if it's just something that's out of your price range, we understand, you know, maybe you could check out some of our specials that we have or catch us on one, you know, something to that extent. Like there's days that we have specials. So for instance, on Wednesday, we have Dollar Wing Wednesday. So maybe today is not affordable, but maybe you'll find another day you come in and eat with us. But I really just try to be, you know, cordial with them. But like, our price is our price. And, you know, it's just like, Perry's ain't gonna change their price for you. The steakhouses won't change their prices for you. So, but you know, you might, all of us might want to eat a certain thing, but it's just the same with my household. It needs to be in the budget. I can't have champagne tastes on the beer budget and think I can go to Perry's every day and eat. That's not in my budget. So, and that's okay because their Perry's is gonna tell me the same thing.
Right.
So it's just understanding that, and you know, we just that's really the conversation. It's real easy. Like, okay, we understand.
See, Bobbie's being nice right now. She's being nice. I'll say it. Your prices, once you've done all that work and you got your price points based on that overhead and projections and things like that, you've done all that work. Now that you've set your prices, what that will in turn do is bring you clients that you need to be dealing with and detracting clients and customers you don't need to be dealing with. So you didn't put in all that work, it's going to be working for you too. It's going to bring in people you need to be dealing with. It's going to repel those you don't want to be doing business with.
And I always tell them, like, you're right. But you know what I look at? I tell them, right now, we're not in your price range. But hey, you might get a job in 2 months and get a raise, and we might be in your price range, or you might you might hit the lotto. Who knows? A situation for you might change, and we might be in your price range. That $9 for that brisket on the bun might not be nothing to you. You know, God can change your situation overnight. So right now, we're not in your price range. I'm sorry, these are our prices, but you know, catch us on another day when we have a special.
Take some notes from Bobbie. That is the politically correct answer that you want. That is the front-facing answer you want to give everybody. What I just said is the back facing in your
That's what
mind. It's
goes
just
through
like,
your
yeah,
mind.
it's
That's
just
what
like,
goes through
yeah,
your mind.
I don't need to be dealing with you anyway, because if you make a concession, these are the ones that are gonna be giving you problems. Like, oh, this is. Could you skim a little bit more off the side? They're gonna always want more and more and more. Want you to do more for less and less and less. So it's just like, yeah, front end facing, yes.
Yes.
She got
Yes.
that script. She got that script down. But just know that your prices, once you have set it, and once you've done all that work, they are going to do. It's going to do the work for you. It's going to bring you who you need to be talking to. It's going to take away who you don't need to be talking to.
Yes.
So
Don't compromise. You
don't
need to
compromise.
run a
Don't feel bad
business,
about
honey.
it.
Don't compromise. Just, you know, yeah. Just
All
do
right.
good. Keep the front facing, because hey, somebody might meet somebody that came up on somebody. Hey, I could afford to go there now, so I'm gonna go there.
Exactly.
And also people respect you more when you set those kind of boundaries with your pricing.
Right.
And it's certain people that won't even try at other places that will try to try you. So you got to be firm with your prices. Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So now we are building hype and excitement. We've done all the work.
The
We've
fun
done all.
part.
Yeah, the fun part. We've done our business plan. We created our mission statement. We defined our target audience. We outlined our product and services. We developed our market strategy. We set our financial projections. Now it is time to build the hype and excitement. Now it's time to get them in the door. So go ahead and talk about that, Bobbie.
Um, you know, some of the ways to do that or promoting on your
Oh, well,
social
we
media
actually, yeah, we already talked about some of those things. You talked
Yeah,
about the
we
merchandise, the
did. Just
shirts.
promoting on your
Yeah.
social media platform, having some merch, good visuals. Like we paid a photographer to come and take some pictures of the food and take some pictures because your camera, you will be doing things on your own periodically in between having those more expensive photo shoots. But you want to invest in some quality pictures for your website, for your own, especially if you're doing anything online for your online platforms, things like that. And so make sure you can invest in that. Photos, are great. Photos, ads. I use Canva a lot of times.
Oh, Canva's a good one.
And it's very user friendly. So I use Canva, and then running ads. Once you learn that aspect of it, who to target in your ads, so that you can make sure that you're not just running ads to people that probably aren't even looking for the services you offer. Kind of tailor those ads, niche them down to people who will more likely buy from you, so you're not wasting those ad dollars. And then collaborate with other influencers is very important, and sometimes that can be organic, just word of mouth. But I always say make the effort to reach out to some influencers in your area or online, depending on what you're selling, and let them be the voice for you as well. A lot of times they have followers and they may have what you're looking for. So for example, for us, it would be food bloggers that we would want to reach out to, or food magazines, or things like that, pop-up shops, schools, any, places that need food, places that like to buy food, booster clubs. Just research, like, based on your company organization, research the people that are more likely to want to buy from you, so that you can target them. Business to business is key as well. I love business to business because a lot
What
of
does that
times
What does that look like?
business to business is making connections. So it's networking, going to some networking events. Even I like face to face interaction because I just think that we've gotten away from that so much with social
Yes.
media. Guerrilla marketing is still so important. Taking a flyer somewhere, giving them a sample of what you have to offer, or taking a flyer somewhere. For example, if it was, with you, it'd be like to a business that may need media, and showing them all the accolades and all the projects you worked on and the outcomes, whether that's even in a simple flyer or pamphlet. and have some references that they can go off of, professional references. And
Hmm.
so you're top of mind when they want to do that Christmas party or that whatever. I I tell my team all the time, like, man, I'm so eager to get everybody trained up because that's what I love to do. I love to market face to face. I love to
Yeah,
make those connections and build those relationships. Is very important.
absolutely. I love face to face also. My
And
80s baby.
yes, we 80s babies. And there's a level of professional persistence that you can have. I call it professional persistence where you're not nagging them because professionals are
Right.
busy. We are busy. We are busy. Anybody that owns a company is busy. So it's a level of professional persistence that you should have that's not like overbearing. Like, don't, you know, overly call them or, hey, did you get a chance to look at this? Hey, did you get a chance to look at this?
Don't spam them. Don't spam them.
Yes, don't spam them. That's it. That's key. That's key. Yep.
Yeah, so this is great stuff, great stuff. And then also, I'm glad we're back on this because I did want to emphasize the importance of those T-shirts. Going back to the T-shirts, because that's another area I shot myself in the foot. I created company shirts, but I made it just for my staff because it had my company name on the front, then it had media staff on the back. But people at my church would always ask me like, "Oh, can I get one of those shirts?" Like, "Oh no, it's just for staff and or my team and things like that." Because like we wear that when we're at these big conferences or so people can differentiate my team from just the regular participants. So it's just like I just turned down so many free marketing people who just want to run, want to wear the company shirt and they could have been advertising and things like that. So. All these years later, I'm still not doing T-shirts, but that is going to change because I am in the works right now of getting shirts made. But it's like that's free advertisement. People are walking around with your company name. You're being strategic about that, so put your socials on the back of it, make it easy for people to find you. Or they can people have been creative too. They'll put QR codes, embed the QR codes within the shirt. So people can just snap a shirt. Oh, what is this? That looks cool. Oh, yes, this company. Yeah, just take a picture of my shirt and then so it's just like there's creative ways, and then we didn't really touch on digital business cards. Digital business cards are good also. Like I have one where it's a QR code. It's on a titanium card, but I'm about to get another one made because it uses NFC technology. So it's a very thick metal card, but you literally just tap it on the phone and it puts all your contact company info on there. Because just like Bobbie, it's like I love networking in person. I'm a natural networker, connector, so I thrive in those kind of environments where it's like I'm meeting people face to face. I'm shaking their hands, I'm giving them hugs, and it's just like, oh my God, you're so cool. Like your energy, like what do you do? And so it's just like I thrive in that environment. When COVID came around, it was even though we were striving in our pivot, I was really missing all of the events like South by Southwest, Essence Festival, BT, and things like that, where it's just like I'm meeting all these unique people, all these great, smart people, and missing out on possible collaboration. So I was very happy when things opened back up. So yes.
I bet you like me caged in, like, oh, get me out.
but there's so many tools that are available today. So it's just like you're hitting everything from the T-shirts to using the CRM to the mailing list to even you can send text messages out to your clients now. The business cards, just networking. Those are like 6 things I just named. So it's just like if you're not utilizing these things, you should always be busy, like Bobbie says, as a business owner. You're always busy. Even if there's no work coming in, there's always administrative tasks. There's always marketing. There's always social media posts you can be doing. So it's like there's never not a time I'm not doing anything. Collin, are you busy today? I'm always busy, but what's up?
I'm always busy. Always.
What's up? What you got?
Every day.
You taking an off day. That's not good. You have an off day.
Yes, I can't even function in an off day sometimes. I'm like, oh my God, I'm off. I can't be off. Like,
well, let me put a disclaimer out there. If you're taking off days, when you're just starting out, but when you're rolling and your business is doing anything, you got your project manager, you got everything's working the way. Then yes, you got more off days. Then you're taking vacations and things like that. But this is just the building blocks. Because remember, we're just now starting out. So yeah, you shouldn't be having off days.
Yes, and to your point, like you have to learn, you have to learn what, well, not even learn, but set realistic expectations.
Right.
And it may not go off. When I say expectations, that's our expectation. We know we're not in control of anything. We just got to get up and do our best, put our best foot forward every day. Um, we're not in control of the outcomes of a lot of things. It,
Right.
it could well exceed what your projection was. It could underperform what your projection was. But you got to look at what you could do differently, but it's not, we're not in control of that. We're
Right.
only in control of our efforts and
Yeah.
with the grace of God that He allows us to do. But I say that to say, even when we started TaterQue, I knew that with the restaurant, we would probably the first year, like we already said in our mind, like we're not going on vacation. We're not taking any major trips. We might have a day or two where we're like, we just need to catch up on sleep because you got to be able to function. But like we may have a staycation, like go downtown and just stay the night or just something. But we knew not to plan anything extensive 7 days, 14 days away because we're just starting out and you're hiring and you're firing and you're learning what works and learning
Your
what doesn't work,
training.
training and putting more policies and procedures in place and
Yes.
planning, events and all the things.
Might need a new
You
permit. Comptroller's
Yes,
office might need something. CPA
yes.
might need something.
So you can't even think that just go ahead and swallow all of that plan of like, oh, I'm gonna be my own boss and I'm gonna have all this freedom. Initially, it depends. It always depends on your goals, your business ideas, your plan of where you want to go, where you want to grow. So
Hmm.
that's gonna depend on how much time you take off. If it's a hobby, yeah, maybe you can. But if you want to grow a viable business, a big brand, if you're thinking big, you want to provide opportunities for a lot of people, then you're gonna have to sacrifice some of your time.
Yeah.
And
That,
yeah.
that sounds like intentionality, which we
Hmm.
talked about in the previous two episodes. Being intentional. There it is again.
Being into
And she says she has they have staycations. I have workcations.
you
So
know,
like when Essence Festival comes up, like I always have that circled on my calendar. It's like even though we're working, it's like a heavy event because we got cameras everywhere. We got to go here, got to go here. So a huge event with activities spread all across the city. But it's just like I love it, but it's a workcation for me. So it's like even though I'm away from home, it's just like even though I'm buried in work, it's like it's still I'm getting my life during that time. So
yes,
you
yes, yes.
every entrepreneur or business owner, you got to have some of those, whether it's a staycation, workcation, but vacations don't count on
Not
those
not
just yet.
initially, not initially, not until you can find the who's to do the hows that you want done. And there's a book called Who Not What or something like that. How Not What. I, I gotta find that book.
Yeah, you
But
definitely do because we're
and
getting to that at the end of this
yeah,
podcast because we're gonna have to get that recommended book from
yes.
you. But go ahead.
Okay. No, yeah, I was just saying you till
Okay.
you can get there, you gotta put in the work yourself initially.
All right. So this is our last talking point here. So now we are at the end where it's like we're ready to launch our products and services. We already had some little tidbits of that in there, but um, once y'all had everything, you did all your taste tests. You know we went through all the strategies and market research, target audience. We got our price points. So now we're ready to flip that sign over from closed to open. What was that
Mm.
process like for y'all in TaterQue when y'all were ready to go live?
Oh my goodness. Mm. I'm
Well,
having I'm having
take your
flashbacks.
time. Take your time, sis. Take your time.
What was the process like when we were ready to go live? We did a soft opening and we did not um, let a lot of people know initially. We just did a soft opening with family and friends because
Hmm.
we wanted to get our bearings. So after permitting, after all of the things compliance wise that we needed to do to open, we we did a soft opening. That helped us a lot to develop, to correct some of the things we were doing with the flow. We just, what our goal was to write down any pain points that we experienced during that soft opening. So whether that was ticket time, printers, anything, workflow, we wrote it down, and then we started to implement some things to make it more efficient. So prior to the grand opening.
Okay.
But yeah, yeah, that soft
Okay.
launch very important.
Exactly, because I already shared my story, of course, with we got we did a couple of free events for customers just to tweak our services, get that feedback, and make some tweaks just before we went live. And one thing I did forget to mention with that story was I saw the demand was going to be high, so it was three of us at the time. I hired two more people, and that still was nowhere near enough. Once we did our hard release, because it was just like a wall of demand. So it's like five was nowhere near enough. I was taking anywhere from 10 consultation calls every single day. So I was missing breakfast, lunch, dinner. There was like plenty of days that I went without eating because these consultation calls
Yes,
were supposed to be 30 minutes and they were going literally an hour and a half, 2 hours.
yes,
And the only
yes,
reason they ended is because I had, going into the next consultation. It's like, okay, I gotta go. I'm going into the next call.
yes. I
So,
gotta get
and
off. Yeah,
and then having to give that same energy to the next client is just like, oh my gosh. So I had to quickly streamline my processes and automate everything because I was quickly getting to the point of burnout. So
hmm
that's very essential to do that soft release because that'll give you an idea of what people like, what it is they want, and to make sure also that you can meet the demands of what the clients are needing. So
hmm
definitely. Um, so yeah, so when y'all finally open the doors and those customers start coming to the food truck, what was that feeling like? Just just
I
finally
mean, it
getting
was,
to that point because of course it was a lot of work to get to that point, but finally being
yeah.
at the point where it's like we're open, we're serving our food, we're seeing their reactions.
Yeah, it was an amazing feeling. And I mean, it was amazing to see the customers and hear their feedback. And that was like definitely the fun part of it all.
Yeah,
Like, and the most like fulfilling part of it all was
there
like
it
seeing
is.
their expressions and like, oh man, we did all this hard work. And
Made
like
it all
they're
worth it.
experiencing on the other end with the product or the food or whatever. But like, man, it took that to get to that point. So that was fulfilling for us to be like, okay, it paid, the hard work paid off because we got happy customers, we got happy spudsters or what we
I
call them,
love
but
that spuds,
you know,
spudster.
yeah. So it all paid off, and if anything, it made us want to get better because we want to continue to provide that experience for every customer. We did not want them to have a bad experience. Like we were like, if this customer had a great experience, every customer should be able to have a great experience. Like we wanted to make sure our product was consistent, and so we started looking for ways to like develop a more consistent product and our recipes and all the things, um to to make sure that we could duplicate that feeling. And even though things get intense, they get intense behind the scenes, intense.
Hmm.
I commend our team for like hanging in there with us on those intense moments. But um that was just really fulfilling, like the fact that our team wants the same thing. They take a lot of pride and integrity in what we
Yeah.
serve, and getting their buy-in into like what TaterQue stands for. And they feel so bad when we serve a product that does it is not up to par. Like if we get a bad review, they really feel bad, like, man, I should have felt that before I sent it out. Or I meant to put it in the window to stay warm, and but I put it next to me. Or they just really feel bad,
That's it.
So we don't, nobody's perfect, but we try to get it right because we do want our customers to have a great experience. They're spending their hard-earned dollars and their time there, and we want that experience to be great. So
Exactly. So this wasn't even one of the talking points. and I'm making it right now. But one important thing that I just thought about, customer service. You as a business owner, if you do not have good customer service, go on and shut the doors right now. Just shut the doors. Just shut it off.
Slow down.
Just hang it up. Please talk
Yes.
about the importance of customer service, because every business owner, if you are going to be dealing with clients, front facing, even back facing, you're going to have customer service.
Mm-hmm.
So let's just briefly talk about customer service.
Um,
Because
that's
that's big.
everything.
That's big
It's
in the food.
everything.
That's
It's
big in the
everything.
food. Yeah, especially in the food restaurant business.
Yes, it's everything. We have so customer service is important. It's the lifeline of your business. You can have great food and you have poor service and nobody's gonna want to come back. And
Hmm.
so I tell our team, like, we've done customer service trainings, we've done team meetings where we've actually had people come from other companies that have a background in teaching customer service to come and help our team so that they're hearing it from other places than just me and my husband. Like, this person may work for Starbucks or this person used to work for this place, and that's
Hmm.
what they did. So we bring in professionals that actually can teach customer service skills and use real scenarios to like drive the importance of it home to our team. And we also to incentivize our team to provide good customer service. We provide like contests, like if we get good reviews for this X amount of time, we're gonna do a raffle for the team. So then they know, oh, it's a team effort, or
Hmm.
everybody on the
Right.
team's gonna get a gift card, So it's a team effort to provide like quality service. A lot of I noticed with our younger
Uh,
team members, they're a little more shy nowadays. I think it's
mhm.
because they're behind these phones so much that
Right.
I noticed eye contact is different and
Hmm.
just their whole body language. So bringing in those people from the outside because it doesn't, even though they're shy, like that's our next generation. That's our next set of of employees. So we gotta like pour into them and develop them to understand like this is a part of your job. This is a part of the description. Like you got to get out of your shell and giving them tools on how to do that, even when they're shy or they're not. That's not who they are.
Right.
That's not their personality. Um. So yeah, we do all of, we tried multiple ways we've invested in, and we develop ways to make sure that we can provide a good service to the customers.
Awesome. And because it sounds like Bobbie and Bobbie have built a great company culture with TaterQue. And, we're going to be talking about that in future episodes. So we're going to be talking about company culture and how you establish that. So she's giving the goods, definitely. And then, yeah, customer service is paramount because the great Maya Angelou said, I've learned that people will forget what you said, people will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel. So
That's so true.
if you treat them bad, if you give them bad customer service, you can have the greatest product, you can have the best food, you can have the greatest service, but they will remember how you made them feel and they will pass you over and go to somebody less or subpar because of just the treatment. So I don't believe in that saying of the customer is always right, but there is a certain way you deal with customers that you don't necessarily agree with. And that goes back to the front-facing statement Bobbie made, where it's
Yes.
just like, hey, okay, well, I understand this might not be the, time right now. So it's just like there's a way of doing that versus being disgruntled or just trying to tell them off or no, I'm gonna tell them. Just remember, they're gonna remember that.
They will
So
remember that. Yes, yes,
exactly, and
yes.
they will talk. It's harder to get people
Mhm.
talk good about your business, but it's so easy for them to talk bad about it.
Oh my
So
goodness. Yes, that's so true. So true. It's so many times I wish a customer would have complained to us before they went to Google
right.
or just like let us know we'll fix it for you, but they want to go straight to the blog, straight to Google.
Right, straight to the.
Um, yeah. Yeah.
So Bobbie, thank you so much for being on this episode. Thank you for taking the time to speak with me today. Speak to our viewers today. This was very informational, very helpful. But tell everyone how they can find you, what initiatives you got going on, whatever it is you want to plug. Let us know what you have going on and how we can support you.
So right now, and I probably will be mad later and think of some more things, but right now, TaterQue is what's going on, and we have the locker room also that is it's a podcast also, but it's community based. We bring in young men. It's primarily my husband and another team of guys, but we do that every Tuesday. It's just to educate the community, educate young men on like life skills and things like that. And then we're also just we have some community things going on, initiatives going on. But yeah, TaterQue is what's happening. We have our weekly lineup. We post that on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok. So all
What
our
are those
handles,
socials? Yep, there you go.
all those socials are TaterQue. Some of them are Tater_Q. So that's Instagram and TikTok is Tater_Q. Facebook is just TaterQ. So you can find
Yep.
us there. And yeah, check us out. Eventbrite as well, Eventbrite slash TaterQue to find out all of our events that we're having upcoming and to reserve any tables and things of that nature. So yeah.
Awesome. And that information is on the screen, and it's also going to be in the description of this episode. And then also, and I'll be in Austin. I was in Austin the last couple of weekends. I was just in Austin this past
Oh,
weekend. I
we
was
should
like, I
have
need to
told me
come by.
that.
It's like, don't worry, I'll be back in Austin because I'm doing
Oh,
a
I
few
know.
I'm doing a few projects, so I'm like back and forth all the time. But I'm definitely coming through next time. Trust me.
I know.
So,
See.
so last thing for our viewers, if you could is there a recommended book that will help our viewers, not just in entrepreneurship, it could just be in life in general? Any recommended reads?
So my top recommended read, especially for this show, is it's called The E-Myth, and it talks about being an entrepreneur and the myths related to being an entrepreneur, and it kind of just dissects those and gives you more clarity on being an entrepreneur and the many roles that you may have to play and what your strongest skill set is, like your strengths, because it basically breaks it down as technician,
Mm.
manager, or entrepreneur. You may be able to wear all the hats, but you may not, how effective are you going to be in wearing all the hats? So it's a really, really good read. Um, my husband says he's the technician and I'm the entrepreneur slash manager. Uh, yeah, we couldn't do it without each other, but that's a really good one. And then there's one by Dan Sullivan. I couldn't remember the name because I actually just started reading that one, but I'm gonna look it up real quick because it is called Who. It is called Who Not How, and he has a lots of good books, but it's formula to achieve bigger goals through accelerating teamwork. So it just teaches you that you may have the how. A lot of these things we already know subconsciously, we know, but it's getting to point A to B. So, for instance, you, Colin, you know the how because you came up with the vision. So you know what you want to do. You just need the who's to help you pull it off. And so, with enough of the right who's, then you can get to to the how. You already got the how.
Yeah. When they say any
How
dream,
can be pulled off?
yeah, exactly. It's like what they say. Any dream that can be accomplished by one person isn't a big enough dream.
Not big
So
enough.
if you're trying to build something that's going to be influential, that's going to help the community, help people, it's going to take a team. So and especially if you want to scale as a business owner, as an entrepreneur, you're going to need a team. So delegating those hats is definitely crucial and
Oh man.
essential because once I was able to finally take off some of my hats and pass them around and build during the COVID, oh my gosh, my
I
life
mean, me
became
being
so
able
much
to,
easier.
yeah, and like to your point, me being able to take off one of the hats, even with us connecting. Um, like Andrea was able to help me with connect
Shout
with
out
the connection
Andrea.
what I do. Yes, shout out to Andrea. Shout out to my whole team. Cause listen, they making it happen right now at the restaurant. I'm not even there.
Yep.
So it's very important to find the right who's
Yeah.
to help with the how. So yes.
Absolutely. And she gave y'all 2 books. She
Yes.
gave y'all 2. So, but those will be linked in the description as well. So, Bobbie, thank you again. What I love about the couple, the power couple here, is they're both named the same name but different spelling. So, Bobbie and Bobbie. I hate that I couldn't have him on, but
We're gonna have us a reality TV show soon,
I
y'all.
know
They
Bobbie and
coming.
Bobbie, Bobbie and Bobbie.
They are coming. Like check, like be on the lookout because some reality shows gonna pick us up because everybody keeps saying like when they see us in the restaurant, like oh my gosh, y'all need a show because y'all are just crazy.
Well, you already know the production company. You know who got the cameras, so
Hey, you better come on down and let's shoot this pilot.
we can make our own. So absolutely. But thank you so much, Bobbie. Really appreciate it. As I always end, I would like to end with this. So, according to the Small Business Administration, about 20% of small businesses fail within their first year, 30% fail within the second year, and 50% fail after 5 years in business. The tips, advice, and resources we provide on this podcast will ensure that you are not one of those statistics. Hopefully, y'all are out there taking notes. But until next time, I'm outie.